up. Make a good. Hey y'all, I'm back in the garden today, just for a brief moment. I realized I have a lot of things in the kitchen that need to be tended to. One of those things is I need to preserve some vegetables. It's kind of odds and ends kinds of things, like tomatoes, not enough to make a big batch of canned tomatoes. So I'm gonna do a vegetable soup, but I wanna start by cutting some celery out of my garden. This is the first celery stalks that I'm cutting. I'm super excited. All right, so you can see these celery plants. They look a little dry and crunchy on the tops, but they have started to stalk out. So I'm gonna cut some of the tallest ones that I can use in my soup. And I'm just gonna cut individual stalks like this instead of whacking the whole plant. I don't know if this is right or wrong, but this is how I'm doing it. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. Such a strong scented celery. I didn't expect that. I guess I should have. It's a fresh food, always better. These are smaller than I'm used to seeing in the grocery store, but I think they'll do, so yay. And they smell so good, it's so strong. Okay, that's all I'm gonna grab for now. I have some onions and some peppers and some tomatoes, and well, I'll just get inside and I'll just show you the whole bunch. All the things I'm gonna toss into this soup. All right, some other things I have going on today. Here's that celery. I've got some chicken broth that I rendered down yesterday. I need to get that canned. I've got some beef bone broth that I made in the Instant Pot last night. I need to get that canned, so that'll all go in one bunch. And I have some peanuts. These are the first peanuts that we've grown. I'm gonna throw these in the Instant Pot to cook while I'm working on the soup. Here are those tomatoes for the soup. This is a scrap bucket. This is a couple of onions I just picked. Peach cobbler from last night. Can't go wrong with peach cobbler. So I kind of have a lot of things going on here, so bear with me. And it's farm day. All right, I'm gonna start with this broth. I'm gonna go ahead and strain this beef broth. I'm gonna add it to the chicken broth and do a combo, an all-in-one. So that should be tasty. All right, so this looks really good. I did the chicken broth yesterday with the leftover chicken carcass, and then I did the beef bones overnight. We had a sirloin, steak tips, and mushrooms. Jill Winger's recipe, amazing. So we had that for dinner, and the meat, you cut the meat off the bone and kind of cut it into chunks and saute it in the pan for a few seconds. But after doing that, I just took the bones, put them in the Instant Pot. They pressure cooked for 2 hours. I added a celery stalk broken up. I added an onion chopped in half, a few garlic cloves, some salt, some apple cider vinegar, covered it over with water, and hit the button. That's it. So then it sat like that. It finished sometime after we went to bed, and I let it just sit in the natural release overnight until just now. So it's actually still warm. It was on the keep warm mode. And so I've added that to the chicken stock that I made yesterday. And I'm gonna fill jars. I'm gonna go ahead and get the canner going for that. Just gonna dip in with a measuring cup. So as you can see, I don't think this is gonna be enough to fill another quart jar. I'll give it a shot, but we'll get what we get, and I might just throw it in my soup that I'm gonna make. Not a full quart. That's all right. You could top this off with water too. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'll go back and divide all of these jars amongst to fill 7 because my canner holds 7, and I'll just top them off with water, and that's just as good. Obviously, it's not as dense, it's not as concentrated, but it works just as well as far as putting broth on the shelf. But not today. Not going to do that today. Today, to just hang on to this to add to my vegetable soup. And I'm gonna fill 2 jars with water just as placeholders in the canner, and that'll be a good sterile water that I'll have on the shelf in case we ever need it. So better than buying bottled water. All right, I have my new lids. I'm reusing rings, I'm reusing jars. Before I place my new lids on the jars, I want to clean the rims of the jars with a little bit of vinegar. I can see that there's quite a bit of fat still in this broth, and that's great. We love that. Okay, so I don't want the fat in these jars to prevent the lids from sealing. So I'm gonna I've got some plain white vinegar here, a clean dish rag, and I'm gonna clean the rims of these jars before putting on my new lids. All right, these 2 are just water, so I don't need to do anything with them. But these, I'm also feeling for chips. Got new lids here. Remember, when you put your rings on, you don't want to wrench them down as tight as you can. Just finger tight. I have a rack in the pressure canner. I've got about 2 inches of water in there. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to turn it on to high to start, and then I will bring that down. And I will go ahead and start filling the canner. These quarts of broth are going to go in for 25 minutes. And now I'm going to wait. So I'm waiting for steam to come out of this vent. I can see the tiniest bit coming out now, but it's going to take a few minutes for it to really warm up. I want a steady stream out of that vent for about 10 minutes before starting my 25-minute timer. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna get going are boiled peanuts. So these are our first peanuts that we've grown here on our farm. We're really excited about that. We're just tickled to death. I dug up a few plants yesterday. I soaked them last night for a few minutes in some water in the sink. And then I just did my best to scrub them with my hands and a little scrubby brush, my vegetable scrubber brush, and drained them and put them in the fridge overnight. So now I'm gonna put them in the Instant Pot. I have never done this before, but a friend just gave me the details on how she does it. And so here we go. This is a 1/3 cup. I've got a 1/3 cup of salt. We use Redmond's real salt. I'm gonna add a little bit more than that. If you hear that scraping sound, I'm scraping it out of this big jar that I have it stored in. It does kind of cake together because there are no anti-caking agents in that salt. We don't want that, so good salt. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit of hot water just to help that salt begin to dissolve. I'm going to dump the peanuts in. Do you save the bag? I don't know, something like that. I feel like I might save the bag. And then I'm just gonna cover these peanuts over with water. Okay, so I was told they might float, so I'm gonna take the rack that comes with the Instant Pot, place it on top to hold them down. They still wanna float. So I was told the weight of a Pyrex dish will help hold them down. Okay, so I think that looks perfect. So it's salt water, peanuts, added water. I still have some floater guys, but I think that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in, and we're gonna set it to manual for 90 minutes. Make sure the vent is closed. All right, I'm just gonna let that be. The pressure canner has been venting for a few minutes. I can hear the water boiling inside. I'm gonna go ahead and set my weight at 10 pounds of pressure and wait for that gauge to come up and listen for that rocker to start rocking. In Here I have onions, celery, and carrots that I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna saute these with a little bit of olive oil, just to kind of bring the flavors out a little bit before we actually put them in the soup. I'm just gonna let this simmer or saute for a few minutes so those onions become translucent, and then I will work on the rest of the soup. All right, I'm gonna take my tomatoes. I have a variety of tomatoes. Some are gold, some are red, and I'm gonna hit them with the blender, the stick blender. Still lots of good chunks in there. Like I said, it's gonna be like a couple of cans of crushed tomatoes. All right, next I have some corn on the cob. So also, this is not our corn, just in true transparency. We had corn on the cob a couple of nights ago, and these were leftovers, so I'm just gonna cut them off the stalks or off the cobs and add them to the pot. Just kind of break that up a little bit. It'll break up more in the pot. All right, next I'm just gonna peel some potatoes to throw in. All right, so we have our soup is just vegetables still simmering. I'm ready to add the other liquid. So some other things I'm gonna add, I have a tiny bit of beef broth that I had left over in the refrigerator. I'm gonna get rid of that. I made some tomato basil soup for my grandmother about a week and a half ago, and I haven't made it to her house to bring it to her yet, but it was tomatoes that she grew, and she didn't know what to do with them, so I made some soup and canned it up for her, and I had this much left over, so it's been a week and a half. I'm gonna go ahead and use this up. I'm gonna throw that in. The broth from a little while ago, and we have plenty of green beans that we have grown ourselves and have canned. We don't have anything fresh coming out of the garden right now. It's the end of July in Florida. It's really not green bean season. We'll be starting new plants soon to get a good fall crop. But so this is from our pantry stock, and we found that we do not care for the seasoning on these green beans as a little bit strong. And so to use them up instead of being wasteful, we've been cutting them with one of these cans and one of our own jars of home canned green beans. I'm gonna go ahead and use one of these in that soup. So I'll dump the whole thing in, the liquid and all. Refrigerator broth. Same broth that's in the canner. It's already cooled enough. Look at the fat on there. Tomato basil soup. Our crushed tomatoes. Make it a mess. And go ahead and add a good healthy amount of salt. A couple of tablespoons. Alright, so these are those fat Italian green beans. Looking good. So there's really no recipe here. You can add whatever vegetables you want. This is just coming up to 10 pounds of pressure. So I want to hear this rock about 4 times in a minute. I think we're going to be there. I'm going to give it just another few seconds and keep my ear on it. I'm going to add some water to the soup and keep moving. I've got dishes to do now. Just added a quart of water, about a quart, I'm guessing. Just want to let these flavors really marry. You can add whatever spices you want to that, or seasonings and herbs and things. I did forget to put garlic in there, so I'm gonna throw some garlic powder in and cheat a little bit. Looks good to me. So my timer went off. These are finished. All I've done is turn the stove off. We're gonna let this pressure come down all by itself. We're not gonna force it. Just gonna wait for that dial to hit 0. And then we'll work to get this soup canned up to go in. So more on that in a little bit. Next thing I have to do is bake bread. I have some bread for sale today, and I need to make some rolls for us for dinner. This broth is coming out. It's gorgeous. Okay, so next I'm going to jar up my vegetable soup. One thing I just realized I forgot to mention is to debubble your jars before putting the rings on, or before putting the lids on. So I'm going to do that. Vinegar. New lid. Reused ring. Okay, moving on. Okay, last thing I did in this soup was I put a splash of lemon juice in there. If you've ever had Panera's vegetable soup, you always get the little slice of lemon in the bottom. It just deepens the rich flavors in the soup. So we don't have any lemons, and lemon juice does the trick. So maybe a 1/4 cup in that whole batch. And then I filled my jars, filled my canner. I've got 5 quarts of vegetable soup, 2 more placeholders of water. So one thing I need to address is you want to make sure that you don't bump your jars if you can help it. They're still kind of doing a little bit of bubbling here. See how it's kind of moving around a little bit here and there. That's normal as they come down to room temperature, but you just want to make sure that you don't bump them so that the seals break. And you also don't want to try to twist the rings any tighter than they are. Just let them be. The lifting of the lid is part of the canning process, so you don't want to do anything to them. So they need to sit here for 12 to 24 hours. They'll probably sit here for me until morning. Hey, guess what? So it's been an hour since my Instant Pot finished. The natural release valve is down, so I'm super excited about this. I don't know why, like I'm tickled to death. When I dug up peanuts yesterday, even the first little handful, I just was tickled. And then I started pulling up plants in the evening, and the first one I pulled up, I ran it back to the house, and Eric was on the phone. I was like, look what I got. So yeah, I'm super excited about this. Maybe because it's a new crop. I don't know. I remember learning about peanuts growing when I was a kid, you know, George Washington Carver, peanut butter, all that good stuff. And so it's just exciting, I guess. It's bringing the kid out in me. So here we go. It smells like peanuts. Smells amazing. Here we go. We're gonna give them a try. They're so hot. I don't know if this is a wise decision, but we shall see. There's one little piece that was not in a shell. Perfect, tastes like peanuts, like salted boiled peanuts. I have to get ready for my podcast time, Jenny. So if you're not familiar, I contribute to the American Farmsteadhers podcast. You can download anywhere you listen to your podcast pretty much. We broadcast through Simplecast, and it goes to iTunes, Apple Play, all the places, Spotify. There's a whole list of places. So wherever you download your podcast, you can watch there. Okay, I'm gonna empty this canner because I'm tired of waiting. Patience usually gets the best of me. So the dial has said 0 for quite some time. I took off the weight, had a little bit of steam still to escape, but not much. And here we go. I really just want to get my kitchen cleaned up. Oh, every canner's dream. Okay, so I can see the soup in here is still a little bubbly. That's normal. Siphoning is where contents comes out of the jar. It siphons out of the jar. It has to do with pressure change. If you try and release the pressure too quickly by removing that weight too quickly, then that can happen. If you can at too high of a pressure, that can also happen. A lot of the vegetables have floated to the top, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. They will heat up and make a good soup just the same. A little bit of siphoning here. You can see where the water or the broth level is a little lower. A little bit on this back one too. So that's all the canning I'm gonna do today. Let's just say hi to the sheep real quick. She's so cute. She sounds so sweet. She's laying in the middle of soda apple. I don't know how. Girls, what you doing? Come here. Come here, babies. Come here, Janie girl. Oh, gotta get a snack. Here comes Jane. Hey, Janie. She's so pretty. He's a sweetheart. Hi. Hi. He's a sweet girl. Oh. Mary. You a sweet girl? Are you a sweet girl? Yeah. On that note, I'll sign off. Bye-bye.